We'll begin, though, with that alarming rise in COVID-19 cases across the country, despite a months-long push for vaccination.
So the CDC is now reporting a 53% increase in the daily average of COVID cases compared to last week. Hospitalizations and deaths, they're also back on the rise. CDC Director Rochelle Walensky warning about the spread of the Delta variant on Thursday.
Compared to the virus we had circulating initially in the United States at the start of the pandemic, the Delta variant is more aggressive and much more transmissible than previously circulating strains. It is one of the most infectious respiratory viruses we know of and that I have seen in my 20-year career.
As health officials warn, this has become a pandemic of the unvaccinated. More children across the country are testing positive for COVID. And of course, they're mostly unvaccinated. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us now from a COVID testing center in Dallas. Morgan, good morning. So let's talk through what we're seeing happen there with kids. How many COVID-19 cases are the health officials seeing among children where you are?
Yeah, Savannah, Yasmin, good morning. And they're certainly seeing more children come through this testing site over the last several weeks. They say about 50% of those who come through this drive-through testing clinic, about 50% are children. And they say the majority of those children are coming from a summer camp type environment where they have been exposed, at least directly or indirectly, to someone who has COVID-19. And there is a growing likelihood that those who have been exposed to COVID have been exposed to that more contagious Delta variant, which we are seeing a growing impact of here in Texas. We know that specifically a church camp in Central Texas tied to a church in the Galveston area near Houston has now been linked to more than 150 cases of COVID-19, specifically of the Delta variant. And I had a chance to speak to the health director in that county yesterday, and he just told me that this is highly contagious. And he says the speed at which it can spread is significantly different than what he witnessed over the past year. If we go back a year ago, whenever they were learning more about COVID-19 itself. A little bit different, a little more contagious, and that's why it's significantly more concerning.
So, Morgan, let's talk through more about what's going on with these camps. I mean, what are families saying about what's happening at them? You've sent your kids there, and then something like this happens. At some places, there are restrictions in place. At others, there's not, especially when kids are outdoors. But what are families of these kids who are headed off to camp saying?
Oh, they're very concerned. And it's been interesting this summer in that we go back last summer and summer camps either didn't exist at all, or the ones who did stay open had very stringent measures in place. Since then, we've seen the rise in the vaccinated population grow. And so we had a lot of summer camps essentially returning to normal operations this summer. And that could be one of the reasons that we're seeing this faster spread. We know that at one camp in particular in the Texas Hill Country, the camp itself had to temporarily shut down. The staffers had to quarantine after an outbreak of COVID there. I want you to hear what one parent of one of the campers had to say following that incident. Take a listen.
We probably let our guard down a little bit, thinking, most things are getting back to normal. I want the whole thing to be over and everybody to be safe. Yeah, if that means we have to mask up and go back to where we were a few months ago, I'm going to do it.
And you can hear the concern from that father here. We do know that as of right now, the main concern is getting kids either vaccinated or getting the return to wearing masks for those who are, they're the lights, they're with us now. And we do know that when school comes back, as of this moment, Governor Greg Abbott here in Texas had said that he will not require kids to wear masks back in the classroom. But we've also heard from President Biden, who said that the CDC will likely recommend that children 12 and under who are still ineligible for the vaccine go ahead and mask up when they go back to school. And it's going to be here before we know it.
Yeah, certainly concerning for a lot of families, parents, children ahead of the school year as we're seeing this spread in summer camps across the country. Morgan Chesky dealing with those technical difficulties and the lighting situation.
I think I saw a crew member maybe try to use a flashlight on you, so A+. Thank you.
To the silhouette of Morgan Chesky.
You're like, whoa, we came back from that spot. All right, thanks, Morgan. Now to a Massachusetts vacation town that's seeing a concerning rise in the number of cases, particularly among fully vaccinated people. NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton joins us now from Provincetown, Massachusetts. Antonia, good morning. So just give us an idea, give us a sense just how bad is this outbreak where you are, and then also across the state. And of course, when we hear that, the fact that it's particularly among fully vaccinated people, I mean, that's really got to be ringing alarm bells.
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. It's pretty alarming here. There are 256 confirmed cases of COVID, and they are believed to stem out of July 4th celebrations that happened just a couple weeks ago, when in this popular town, large numbers of residents, non-residents, vaccinated and unvaccinated people were mixing at parties and events for days on end here. But what's really got people worried is that fact that many of the cases are vaccinated people. In fact, actually, the town manager here in Provincetown says that 70% of the cases are fully vaccinated people who got all of their shots. And the suspicion here is that this could be caused by the Delta variant, but they haven't received that confirmation yet. But to put this in greater statewide context, Massachusetts is the second state with the highest vaccination rate, and this is the area with the highest vaccination rate in the state. And so this has caused people to reevaluate, what does a safe summer look like in this popular town, Savannah?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is being done to try to keep it safe, especially when I know there's so many summer tourists there? What are officials doing to try to stop this outbreak?
Well, first and foremost, officials are reminding people to please get vaccinated before they come here. And they are reminding people that if you are vaccinated and you do get COVID, you are going to get either an asymptomatic case or a much more mild case than you would if you did not receive the shots. But now they've also put a new mask advisory back in place. So this means people are being asked to wear their masks again inside stores or venues, to wear their masks outside if they can't keep a safe distance from other people. And, you know, the governor has allowed these localities to do that, to reinstitute rules if they feel that that's what's going to mitigate their risk and keep their communities safe. And of course, business owners and officials here want to be able to keep these places open, want people to come to P-Town and be able to party this summer, but they also want to make sure that these outbreaks stop and that people are safe. Savannah.
Antonia, of course, this last year has meant businesses have been shut down. Restaurants, shops haven't been able for about a year now to get the type of business that they're used to. And in a particularly popular summer tourist destination, you need the business at this time. You need people coming in. What does this mean for businesses there? What are they telling you? How are they responding to a rise in cases there at the same time that they really need those people coming into their shops and restaurants?
That's exactly right. I mean, the stakes are really high for these businesses because many of them struggled and fought really hard to be able to be open and serve their customers, their clients this summer. And so what we're actually hearing is some of them are even taking things a step further. We spoke to a business owner who runs a boutique hotel here called Pilgrim House, and he is demanding that all of the visitors be vaccinated. In fact, he's even canceled reservations for folks who are refusing to get vaccinated. And the understanding here is, you know, this is about protecting everyone who comes to P-Town and protecting locals who live here year round and run their businesses here because they want this to be a safe summer. There are more big weekend events just like July 4th coming up, and they don't want to see more outbreaks like this one.
Absolutely. All right, Antonia, stay safe, and hopefully you can enjoy one of the best summer destinations that we've got over here on the East Coast while you're there. Thanks for your reporting.
Love Provincetown. All right, so with cases on the rise across this country, once again, here's how the president responded when asked about changing mask guidance.
We follow the science. What's happening now is all the major scientific operations in this country and the 25-person group we put together are looking at all the possibilities of what's happening now. We have a pandemic among the non-vaccinated, those who are not vaccinated.
All right, let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel joining us now. Dr. Patel, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us on this. So you heard the president there. We're going to follow the science, right? And then going on to say that this is a pandemic happening amongst vaccinated folks. But listen, just listening to Antonia, folks that have gotten both shots now are having some of those breakthrough infections. Pretty concerning across the board. First and foremost, I think one of the major questions is, do you wear a mask or not if you are vaccinated? Where are you personally on this? And what's the official guidance at this moment?
Yeah, great to see you, Yasmin. I'm supporting the United States in my blue and white as well. So but on a more serious note, you're right. This is something that I think the president has had to be very clear that he follows the science. But look, he's not blind to what Antonia and others are seeing around the country. Personally, I have always consistently worn a mask indoors in settings that are not familiar to me, restaurants, retail, where I don't know if other people are vaccinated or not. That was because I'm an incredibly cautious person and I'm a healthcare worker. But I will say that the evidence is also now growing that if you are in a place that's congested, even in, as Massachusetts is, highly vaccinated, this is just a more infectious virus and variant. And it would be wise to wear a mask, even if you are vaccinated.
So there's also this idea of a booster shot that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, right? And one of the theories that was put out there was that scientists had to look at how many breakthrough infections were actually happening as to whether or not folks that were fully vaccinated need those booster shots. Are we seeing enough breakthrough cases at this point to make the case for a booster shot in the coming months, especially with this highly contagious Delta variant?
Yeah, great question. So we have not, based on the data we have in the United States, but up until May, we were monitoring all breakthrough infections starting in May, only the ones that were hospitalized or led to death. Out of 100 million shots up and through kind of the May time period before the Delta variant, we had a little over 12,000 breakthrough infections, incredibly rare. We still think that death and hospitalization is incredibly rare. We know that that's incredibly rare with vaccinations. But Yasmin, you're pointing to a blind spot. So the booster shot, the CDC Advisory Committee was discussing it yesterday, and they're really hoping that the federal regulators can help pave the way to allow for booster shots for select populations, especially.
Dr. Patel, thank you as always. Great to see you this morning.
The Biden administration is slapping new sanctions on a Cuban official and a government entity. It's all happening under the Global Magnitsky Act, which gives the president full authority to sanction human rights offenders. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now. Monica, good morning. So first, tell us about this move. Who's listed here? How and why did the White House arrive at this decision at this particular time?
Well, the president was under pressure, Savannah, over the last couple of weeks since we saw, of course, that massive uprising, the protests in the streets of Cuba, given the regime there. And so the United States had said they were closely monitoring it, that they sympathized with the protesters, that they were behind them, that they wanted their voices to be heard. But yesterday was the first day we saw an actual action being taken place here, which are these sanctions against leaders within the own country of Cuba. And this is something where the United States is going to try to send a signal that, of course, they're with these peaceful protesters. But then there are also very just logistical challenges on the ground, like a lack of internet access. So they're hoping that by taking these steps, they can broaden that and try to get people there to be able to really just express themselves more clearly. And I want to read you a part of the statement that the White House and the president issued, where he said, as we hold the Cuban regime accountable, our support for the Cuban people is unwavering, and we are making sure Cuban Americans are a vital partner in our efforts to provide relief to suffering people on the island. Now, this did come from calls of both parties, Democrats and Republicans, who were worried, who did want the United States to step up and do more. And the way that the White House framed it, they said this is sort of the beginning. There could be other things coming down the road, Savannah.
And Monica, you just showed us that statement from the president, and actually yesterday at the White House press briefing, Jen Psaki was pushed on this a little bit more. And I know she expanded on that statement from the president. What did we learn from her?
And this was more also about the timing of why now, exactly to your question, and why did it take so long? And this was something where the press secretary said they wanted to be sure they were using all the proper levers. This is something that came from the Treasury Department and the State Department. And again, they're reviewing other options. Take a listen to how she framed it and why they felt the time was right now.
We've made clear over the last week that addressing this moment was a priority for the administration and for President Biden, and that he had asked his team to look into a range of options that would both help the Cuban people, help provide humanitarian assistance, help look into addressing issues like the lack of internet access, and that also sanctions authority was a part of those considerations.
What's notable here is that we have seen the Magnitsky Act and these sanctions being used for countries like Russia and Venezuela. So the fact that they're being used now against Cuba is significant. And again, there could be more to come.
Lots to watch for. Monica Alba, as always, thanks for your reporting.
All right, 2 people have been shot after gunfire erupted in a popular restaurant area in Washington, D.C. last night. According to authorities, both suffered injuries that were not life-threatening. Police released this video showing 2 people who they describe as suspects running towards a parked black car after the shooting. They say one of the wounded men was believed to be the target, while the other may have been an uninvolved bystander.
And that shooting happened on the same day the Attorney General announced plans to tackle the crime wave in America's major cities. The DOJ is deploying more federal resources to combat a rise in gun violence. But some wonder if it will really make a difference. NBC News correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has more.
Savannah and Yasmin, good morning. The Biden administration says it is cracking down on illegal gun sales, but some critics wonder whether going after guns is the best way to handle this crime wave. In New York City, police are looking for the gunman who shot a 16-year-old in broad daylight. Just another example of surging gun violence in major cities across the country.
This strikes not only at the communities we serve, but at our own community of law enforcement.
Today, the Justice Department launched what it calls anti-gun trafficking strike forces in 5 cities: New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago, where just yesterday 3 people, including a teenager, were killed by gunfire and 32 others were wounded. In D.C., outrage after 6-year-old Nia Courtney was gunned down.
Our families is broken, and we will never be the same again.
The Biden administration is focusing on a crackdown of illegal gun sales, but similar tactics have been tried before. You believe that the main reason for this uptick in violent crime is bail reform?
Without a doubt.
Critics, including the head of the NYPD's Detectives Union, argue going after guns is not enough. They highlight recent cuts to police department budgets and the elimination of cash bail.
It's a revolving door. New York City detectives and police officers from year to date have made approximately 3,500 gun arrests, and 75% of those individuals are let back out onto the street. So there are no consequences.
The Attorney General says this new initiative will make it easier for local cops and prosecutors to share information, helping to arrest people with outstanding warrants. Savannah and Yasmin.
Some heartbreaking stories there. Gabe Gutierrez, thank you so much. Now let's get a check on your morning news now weather.
Michelle Grossman joining us live this morning. Michelle, good to see you this morning. What do we got, especially for the weekend forecast?
Yeah, it's Friday. What do we got?
It's Friday. So good to see both of you. And, you know, I feel a little guilty saying this, but we're doing so good in New York City, the Northeast. I mean, it was so nice yesterday. It's going to be so nice again today. But a lot of spots are in the 90s, feeling more like 100 degrees. So we really have a heat dome in place that's affecting a lot of people. And that's also setting the stage for more fire. So we'll talk more about that. But let's look at the numbers. 96 degrees today in Minneapolis, 13 degrees above what is typical for this time of year. Omaha, 97. And that heat's going to slide to the east on Saturday. So places like Chicago, you're going to feel like 99. You're going to feel like 103 in Kansas City and St. Louis. So you want to stay indoors when you can, wear light, loose clothing, stay hydrated throughout the weekend. And we're going to see this heat dome really stay in place early next week into the later part of next week, where the Northeast is going to start to heat up once again. So places like Cincinnati, Sunday 93, Monday 91, Tuesday 93, but a lot of these places in the 90s feeling more like 100 degrees. So just be careful as you head out next week. Again, that's going to set the stage for these fire dangers, red flag warnings once again. It feels like we've been talking about this for weeks, but we have that extreme heat in place. We have that really dry terrain. We're going to have some winds too, so that's going to fan the flames as we head throughout today. Your smoke forecast, hazy skies, reduced visibilities. There it is, jumping on that jet stream, that conveyor belt of wind, really. And that's going to see, we're going to see wind, smoke as far south as the southeast.
Wow.
Also a severe weather threat. So hail and wind will be the biggest threats in parts of the Midwest and also the northern plains. So you guys enjoy your day. I know it's like so beautiful in New York City. You look beautiful, both of you. I feel like you should go out and do something.
Oh, stop it. Wait, what did you say? I can't hear you say that again.
One more time. I do have to say, though, it's
so pretty.
It's just so crazy what's going on right now. Disturbing to see a smoke forecast slide within a weather forecast.
It's terrible.
I mean, it really is, but you're right.
Especially seeing the effects of it all the way on the East Coast, shifting all the way across the country.
Especially with so much of fire season left still. It's really scary.
Michelle Grossman,
who also looks beautiful, by the way.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye, guys.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here. And click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.